If you were the first detective on the scene, you'd think you'd walked into hell. 6 bodies, slaughtered in silence, blood soaking into hay. No signs of a struggle, no forced entry. Yet the cows were fed. The fireplace still burned warm. Someone had stayed here, slept here, ate here. And as you stand in the barn, staring down at the twisted bodies of a family, you realize something far more terrifying. The killer didn't just vanish. He'd been here long before the murders, watching, waiting. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck, a lonely German farmhouse turned into a tomb. A mystery that has haunted investigators for over a century. A case with no suspect, no closure, and no escape from the horror left behind. They thought evil couldn't walk this far into the fields, that the silence of Bavaria's countryside could protect them from the world's cruelty. But on a cold March night in 1922, behind the walls of a lonely farmhouse called Hinterkaifeck, something unspeakable was waiting. Something that turned one family's home into a slaughterhouse. The farm sat in isolation, a patch of land swallowed by forest, half a mile from the nearest neighbor. No one to hear a scream, no one to see a flicker of light in the barn. Just wind whispering through the trees and the crunch of boots on frozen earth. Inside lived Andres Gruber, a hard, stubborn man in his 60s, feared more than loved. His wife, Cecilia, quiet, obedient, and weary from years under his rule. Their widowed daughter, Victoria, beautiful but scarred by tragedy. Her husband killed in the Great War, leaving her to raise their 2 children alone, 7-year-old Cecilia and baby Joseph. Rounding out the household was their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who'd only arrived that very day. It was a small, tight circle, one bound not by warmth, but by necessity. And beneath the surface, whispers crawled like roots, of incest between father and daughter, of a child whose parentage was a question no one dared answer aloud. But the terror didn't begin with the murders, it began before. In the days leading up to March 31st, strange signs crept into their quiet lives. Andres Gruber discovered footprints in the snow leading from the woods towards the house, yet none returning. He heard footsteps in the attic at night. Keys vanished from hooks. The family dog barked at shadows. Even the cattle grew restless, stomping and snorting as if sensing something unseen. Andres told his neighbors. They urged him to call the police, but he refused. Too proud, too stubborn, too convinced he could handle whatever haunted his land. He was wrong. The sun dipped behind the Bavarian hills. The farmhouse windows glowed briefly, then darkened. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, then silence. No one knows exactly how it began. But what we do know is that one by one, they were drawn to the barn. Maybe the dog barked again, and Andres went out first to check. Maybe his wife followed, then Victoria, then little Cecilia, each stepping into the cold barn, expecting to find a noise, a loose beam, a wandering animal. Instead, they found death waiting in the dark. The killer struck with a mattock, a farmer's tool sharpened to a cruel edge. Blow after blow, crushing skulls with brutal precision. By the time it was over, 4 bodies lay sprawled in the straw. Andres, his wife, Victoria, and little Cecilia, her hair clutched in her own hands, torn out in terror as she watched her family die before her. The killer didn't stop there. They went inside, found Maria, the new maid, still unpacking her belongings. Then baby Joseph, sleeping in his cradle. Each struck down without mercy. When the blood stopped flowing, 6 lives were gone. But the killer stayed. For days, someone lived in that house of corpses. They fed the cattle, ate meals from the family kitchen. The neighbors saw smoke rising from the chimney. Even the mailman came by, delivering letters to the dead. No one suspected a thing. It wasn't until April 4th, nearly a week later, that anyone entered. A neighbor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, grew suspicious after no one answered knocks or attended church. He gathered friends, entered the barn, and there they saw the horror. Bodies stacked beneath hay, skulls caved in, blood dried black. Inside, the house was eerily calm. Beds made, food gone, a lamp still burning low. And in the crib, baby Joseph, lifeless. The police arrived late. Too late. By then, the crime scene was trampled by villagers, evidence smeared by boots and curious hands. Crucial clues gone forever. Authorities were baffled. Who could slaughter an entire family, then calmly live among their bodies? Robbery? No, money and valuables were untouched. Revenge? Perhaps, but who could hate them enough to do this? Attention turned first to Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor. He had history with Victoria. Rumors claimed he was Josef's real father. Some said Andres forbade their marriage. Others whispered Lorenz had once broken into the home himself. And when he discovered the bodies, he acted strangely, entering alone, moving items, even unlocking doors no one knew were locked. Was it shock or familiarity? He was questioned, but no evidence tied him directly. Next came the drifters, homeless laborers passing through. Others pointed to soldiers traumatized by war, men driven mad by hunger and violence. Still others whispered of a vengeful farmhand or a stranger seen lingering near the woods. Police followed over 100 suspects. None stuck. The unexplained footprints in the snow, the attic noises, never identified. The missing keys, never found. And one detail haunted investigators. Young Cecilia's autopsy showed she lived for hours after her skull was shattered, lying beside her dead family, alone in the dark. Whoever did this showed patience, cruelty, and confidence. They knew the land. They weren't in a hurry. And one more thing, the weapon, the mattock, was found months later, hidden in the attic. The killer didn't bring it. They used what was already there. This was no random crime. It was personal. Over the decades, dozens of theories emerged. Some believe Lorenz Schlittenbauer was the killer, driven by jealousy or rage after being denied Victoria and her child. His knowledge of the property, his calmness at the scene, it fit, but never proven. Others suspect a vagrant, someone seeking shelter, overhearing the family's wealth, then losing control. But why stay afterward? Why feed the animals? Another theory, a serial killer, moving across Germany, using Hinterkaifeck as one stop in a spree lost to history. More chilling still, some think multiple killers were involved. The coordinated luring to the barn, the precision of the strikes, too organized for one person. And then there's the supernatural theory. Locals claimed the farm was cursed, haunted long before the murders. They spoke of strange lights, voices from the attic, the restless dogs sensing things beyond sight. Even after the house was torn down, locals swore they heard cries and footsteps where the barn once stood. The bodies were buried without their heads, which were removed for forensic study. The skulls were sent to Munich and later lost in World War II bombings. Even in death, the victims were denied peace.
In the decades since, police reopened the case multiple times. Modern forensic experts re-examined files, DNA, and testimonies. In 2007, investigators claimed they'd identified the most likely suspect, but refused to name him publicly, citing lack of living witnesses and conclusive proof. The secret died with them. Today, all that remains of Hinterkaifeck is a memorial cross. The farmhouse was demolished in 1923, just a year after the murders. Grass covers the ground where blood once flowed, but the legend refuses to fade. What makes Hinterkaifeck so haunting isn't just the brutality, it's the intimacy. This wasn't a faceless act of war or greed. It was a slow, deliberate extermination of a family by someone who knew them, who may have watched them for weeks, creeping through the snow, listening in the attic as they slept. The killer showed patience, familiarity, maybe even obsession, feeding their animals, cooking their food, living in their silence. Andreas's stubbornness, his refusal to seek help despite warnings, now feels like tragic pride. The footprints in the snow were a message. Someone was already inside your life. Little Kezelia's final moments, clutching her own hair, gasping beside the bodies, are perhaps the cruelest echo of all. 100 years later, the case still bleeds questions. Who walked out to that barn first? Who waited in the dark, weapon in hand? And what drove them? Hate, madness, or something even colder? At Hinterkaifeck, time has moved on. The fields are quiet again. The wind still whispers through the trees, but beneath the soil, the past stirs. A secret buried deep, too heavy to lift, too dark to fade. Because evil doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it just learns to hide in plain sight. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most haunting unsolved crimes in history, a story where every clue leads only deeper into the dark. If you found this story chilling, subscribe for more unsolved mysteries and tell us who or what do you think walked away from Hinterkaifeck that night.